am just about to show you one of the greatest masterpieces of Japanese culture. It happens to be a garden, so therefore, in a way, it is the greatest Japanese garden of all. And that's it out there. This is Ryoanji, or it's attached to the Ryoanji Temple. It's 5 groupings of rocks, 15 rocks in all, some white gravel, which is raked, and a bit of moss. The whole area is about the size of an ordinary tennis court, maybe just a little bit smaller, nicely raked, and that's it. Not one conventional plant. It's rather strange sitting here with all these very reverent people having their Zen moment, and you look at that absolutely perfect Japanese flowering cherry hanging over this garden, in a sense oozing sex. Probably 1 million or so flowers with bees all through them. Propagation is going crazy over there. And here, it's a Zen moment. One of the most memorable things about Japan, for me, is the roofs. They really are absolutely astonishing. They're mostly a fired clay tile, but they're made with the most incredible precision. You know how our tiled roofs in Australia, the tiles are never quite perfect, so they never quite fit together all that well. Not so in Japan. The tiles are made absolutely perfectly. In this case, they're made of a grey sort of a material that's fired, and then they're even painted a more silvery colour. Every tile fits in perfectly. They're laid perfectly. There's many of these shaped corner bits. I mean, they're really works of art. If you ever do come to Japan, have a look at the roofs. They are absolutely unforgettable. Sometimes the buildings are quite cheap and ordinary. Not so the roofs. This is Mr. Kato, and he has an enormous koi carp farm. It goes on down here for probably 1 kilometre, ever bigger ponds. You might think this is his business. No, it's not. This is an obsession to breed the perfect koi carp. And Mr. Kato has bred better koi carp than anyone else in Japan. He has done marvellous things with these fish. Mr. Kato, how many years of your life have you spent breeding koi carp?
About 40 years. At first, I was more interested how beautiful they are. But now, I'm more interested in the breeding and the looking after koi carp.
These are pretty good fish. A good fish can be worth something like $400,000 Australian or more. In fact, I think record prices have been towards $1 million, which is just amazing. They value them so highly. And the people that own fish like this often would never consider selling them anyway. Would you ever sell a very beautiful, large koi carp?
I do not sell my koi carp, but sometimes when approached by other breeders or my friends, I have exchanged carp, but only on the condition that I have a pic of the offspring when the koi I had exchanged breeds.
It is hard to understand just how big these fish are, but you'll get some idea when this enormous carp is put into this floating pond here. This particular variety This golden one is called an Ogon, O-G-O-N. Now look at the size of that. God, that is an astonishingly big fish.
1 meter.
1 metre. It is 1 metre. Mr. Kato says it's 1 metre long, very high quality fish. And in case you'd wondered, they breed these koi carp to be seen from above. Now with an Ogon, I suppose it's colour all over. But with most of the rest of them, the colour splotches are along the back. And that's how they judge them, the various patterns along the back. In Australia, to do ponds like this, you wouldn't have a lot of change from maybe $1 million for the ponds. I'll tell you why. This is a fairly large-sized swimming pool, then it's made to look like a natural pond, and the technology under this is astonishing. That would probably be $250,000 to $500,000 worth of pumps, biological filters, ordinary canister-type filters, although you say canister, they're huge. You've got aeration, and it appears they go to extraordinary lengths to control the acidity of the water, the amount of ammonia and other chemicals present in the water. And bottom line, well, these are the healthiest fish I've ever seen in my life. This is Electric City in Tokyo, and if you like your gadgets, whether it's little movie cameras or little stills cameras or video games or whatever, any sort of gadget at the right price, this is where you come. And my goodness, it's everywhere, up the buildings, along the sidewalks, you just can't miss it or resist it. Akihabara is Tokyo's world-famous electric town, and if you're into electric gear, it's very, very exciting. Often you can see something that won't arrive in Australia for another 6 to 12 months, or maybe even never. There are some wonderful bits and pieces. You can save up to about 50% on the price when you buy here, but you do need to be a little bit careful. Sometimes the instructions are only in Japanese, and you've got to be careful when you buy anything to do with television, because their system is called NTSC. You have to ask for a PAL-compatible system for Australia. But having said all of that, if you're into gadgets, this is the place to be. Well, this has got to be every kid's dream in here. All the latest video games, and you can try them out. Just sitting here watching them, they're absolutely terrifying. All these are so realistic, and the graphics, absolutely fantastic. Oh. And they sit here by the hour. Well, there's lots of surprises here. Look at that. Burke's backyard must be on air in Japan. Hi, Mum. Coming up after the break, you're going to see the Ryoanji Temple, which I regard as having the best water feature of any garden on Earth. We'll take you to a pet shop in Tokyo, and you will see some very, very strange pets indeed. And then a very rare privilege indeed. You are going to see what is universally regarded as the world's best collection of bonsai trees, and these are really magnificent.